Yo, Amateur Lore here, and today I wanted to take a look at a couple of teams who I think are dark horse playoff contenders. Man, college football is only a couple of weeks away, and I'm so excited and can't wait to go through this whole entire 2025 college football season with y'all. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll probably make another video like this right before week 0, so comment down below some teams you think could possibly sneak their way into the 2025 12-team playoff. Anyway, like and sub if you mess with the tent. Now let's jump right into the video. The first dark horse playoff contender that I want to talk about is the USC Trojans. It's kind of weird. I remember, gosh, it feels almost like forever ago, but when Lincoln Riley first made his move from Oklahoma to USC, a lot of the college football world thought he was going to bring this great program back to competing for national championships year in and year out, and that just never happened. Fast forward to today, and it seems like coming into the 2025 college football season, no one has their eyes on this Trojan squad, but I'm here to tell you, do not sleep on them. Last year's season must have felt like a down year for Trojan fans, but there's two positives to take away from that season. One, 5 out of 6 of their losses were in one-score games, and even crazier, majority of those games they led in the fourth quarter at one point in. So this team was definitely way better than their 7-6 finish last season. And 2, we got to see quarterback Jaden Mayava get some burn towards the end of the season after Miller Moss would get benched. And I must say, I only watched a couple of his games, but he reminds me of a diet, no, that's not it, more like a Caleb Williams 0 or max. Like, he shows flashes of brilliance and oozes talent. He had this one play against the Utah State Aggies where he was shuffling in the pocket like he was being controlled by Flight on Madden Ultimate Team, dancing and weaving, turning a broken play down into 6. The talent is there. Can he just put it together for a full season? If you ask me, I think he can. Lincoln Riley is a guru when it comes to calling plays, and Jaden Mayava is going to have an above-average receiving core with plenty of options to choose from. A key player Jaden will have to toss the rock to is Jacoby Lane, who finished second in the Big Ten last season with 12 receiving touchdowns. I'm expecting a big jump from him with more consistent quarterback play. I'm not really worried about the offense. The defense is always the question when talking about Lincoln Riley coach teams and how far they can go. And yeah, the defense is a question, but in his first year with the team, defensive coordinator Danton Lynn has already showed improvements with the Trojan defense, and in his second year, I'm expecting them to even be better. And they should be, with adding a ton of players in the transfer portal on that side of the ball, most notably D lineman Keyshawn Silver and cornerback DJ Harvey. With the potential game changer at QB and a solid defense, the USC Trojans should take a big step forward this year, especially with their Mickey Mouse schedule for the 2025 college football season. No cap, one of my main reasons for choosing USC was their schedule, because I think it's really manageable. They open up the season against 5 teams who on paper the Trojans are more talented than. I don't see Missouri State, Georgia Southern, or even Purdue really giving them too much trouble. Michigan State, on the other hand, in that road game against Illinois might be a hindrance for USC, but I think they should be able to overcome that. The Trojans are really lucky they get the Fighting Illini after they play against the Indiana Hoosiers, which that matchup should be a hard-fought, grinded-out type of game. So they're most likely going to run into an Illini squad who's coming off an emotional 4-quarter football game, which favors the Trojans. USC also gets lucky and avoids Ohio State and Penn State, with their toughest conference games being at home versus Michigan and on the road against Oregon. Every other game remaining on their schedule besides the road game against Notre Dame, USC should be favored in. If, and that's a big if, the Trojans can win the games they're supposed to and go 1-2 or even better 2-1 through those 3 difficult games, then I can't see them being left out of the college football playoffs. That is way easier said than done though. They'd have to lock it in and win the games they should. And with an experienced coach like Lincoln Riley who's been to multiple college football playoffs at this point already, he knows how to get a team there, and this 2025 Trojan squad has the talent and the schedule to get there if everything goes right. Okay, let's cut the bull crap. Y'all know I wasn't going to make a dark horse playoff video without including the Florida Gators, one of the hottest teams coming into the 2025 college football season.
Stop the cap.
No, you stop the cap. I mean it when I say the Florida Gators are one of the hottest teams coming into this season. As for those who forgot, let me remind you, the Gators ended the 2024 season on a 4-game winning streak, where they would take down 2 top 25 teams, one of them which was a 9th ranked Ole Miss Rebels squad. Anyone who watched the Gators play last season, and I don't expect that to be too many people because we were a shit show for 50% of the year, but the second half of the season, Florida really started to figure things out and gel well together, with quarterback DJ Lagway being the glue that held it all together, and Billy Napier being the employee on his phone not paying attention who sold the glue to Lagway. Jokes aside, I learned to just turn my brain off when it comes to Coach Napier, and it surprisingly works. I know I sound like I dislike him, but I've been in favor of him for a while now. I'm just kidding around. I think the way he changed Florida's culture over his 3 years with the team has been very impressive. He has our trench play looking the best it has in a long time, and that's a big reason why I think this Florida Gator squad can go far this year. Florida returned 66% of their overall production, having solid line play on both sides of the ball. Their offensive line is ranked 4th heading into the 2025 college football season according to PFF, and with 2 of Florida's more productive running backs, Jaden Ball and Jacoby Jackson, returning, I'm expecting them to go bananas. They're going to have to for Florida to make it far this year, because we all know Billy Napier wants to lean on his big experienced O-line pounding the rock to set up some downfield shots for Lagway. And speaking of Lagway, I know I'm going to get a 15-yard penalty for unnecessary glaze. I'll take the ineligible glaze downfield, but quarterback DJ Lagway is the one, you heard me? I've seen so many outlets having Lagway as the best QB in the SEC coming into the 2025 college football season, and I have to agree with them. He is the best quarterback I've ever seen play at Florida. Older fans, I'm a little younger. I wasn't taught when Tebow was the QB. I really don't remember watching him. Trask was fire. I love him, but when it comes to intangibles like arm strength, speed, size, Lagway is a bad boy. And with a quarterback as good as him, even a schedule as tough as Florida's can be turned into a playoff run. Yes, Florida's schedule for the 2025 season is OD tough. At the moment, I count like 7 teams who could potentially be ranked inside of the top 25 that the Gators could face off against. At the very least, Florida should begin the season 2-0, but the tough games begin immediately with the ridiculous 4-game stretch of football, where Florida has to travel to LSU and Miami. Then they get to come back home and face off against the most likely top 10 Texas squad, and to end the stretch, they're back on the road to match up with the Texas A&M Aggies. That little stretch will probably make or break Florida's season, but it's nothing they haven't seen before. Their schedule was really tough last year and they still managed to win 8 games. So if they can stay healthy, there's no reason they shouldn't go 2-2 or at the very best 3-1 during that stretch. It might be really hard to accomplish, but they can definitely win any of these games. It's just going to come down to their execution. I wish I could say the second half of the schedule is where things let up, but that's not the case, with Georgia, Ole Miss, and Tennessee all placed in the back half of the Gators schedule. They played all those teams last year, beating Ole Miss and taking the Vols to overtime, and this year with Florida having the quarterback advantage, anything can happen. The best case scenario I see for Florida making the college football playoff is them winning all their non-conference games, which includes Miami, and then somehow only losing at the most 3 games in SEC play. A 3-loss SEC team will make the 12-team playoff eventually, and with how tough Florida's schedule is, they have more than enough opportunities to rack up some quality wins. If Florida goes 9-3 with at least 3 top 25 wins, maybe throw a top 10 win in there, they might find their way into the big dance. All of that relies on Lagway being healthy though. I've been seeing a ton of reports he might be injured, so yeah, that affects everything. Hopefully he recovers and gets back out there whenever he feels comfortable. We chose a dark horse from the Big Ten and the SEC, so it's only natural we talk about my ACC dark horse for the 2025 college football playoffs, which is the Duke Blue Devils. Okay, so right off the bat, one of the main reasons I think Duke can go far is of course their brand new quarterback they acquired in the transfer portal, Darian Mensah, for a pretty hefty penny might I add. Some reports have him as one of the current highest NIL earners, so shout out to him, and shout out to Duke for opening up that checkbook, because in this day and age of college football, you're only going to make it as far as the money you spend on your roster takes you. And it's nice to see Duke of all schools getting involved in some big time deals, as Darian Mensah was wanted by a ton of college football programs, but ultimately he chose Duke for a handful of reasons, most notably the NIL deal. With this stud on Duke, I'm expecting a huge step up at the QB position, as Darian is coming off a pretty good season at Tulane where he passed for 2,773 yards with 22 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions. He is an upgrade at QB when compared to Duke's quarterback last year, Malik Murphy, in my opinion, and with Duke nearly returning their entire offensive line from last season, with the healthy Jacquise Moore in the backfield, you just know their running game is going to be on point, which should help take some of the load off their new QB adjusting to power forward football. No shots at the G5, y'all play good football, but that jump is something serious. The players become bigger and faster, while the defensive schemes get tons more tougher to dissect and read. Something that should help Darian's transition into the conference where football is played on the coast is that he has 3 pretty reliable wideouts to toss the pill to, such as Quayshawn Brown and Samir Hagans, both of which had over 400 receiving yards last season, as well as his transfer coming in from Harvard who finished with over 1,000 yards last season, Cooper Barkate. I don't know what it is about him, but I could really see him taking off this season and getting drafted in like the 6th round, becoming an NFL stud. He just gives off that type of aura. Duke's offense has the potential to take a huge step up for the 2025 college football season, and you already know with Manny Diaz as their head coach, the defense is going to be on point, with some notable players on that side of the ball such as defensive end Vincent Anthony Jr. and D-lineman Aaron Hall, with the cherry on top of it all being their returning first-team All-ACC cornerback from the 2024 college football season, Chandler Rivers. This 2025 Duke football team has dogs all over the field, and with them playing in the weakest conference right now in all of the P4, you know their schedule sets up nicely for them to make a run to the 12-team playoff. Looking at Duke's schedule, I will say there are some pretty tough non-conference games, having to play against Illinois in week 2, then right after that traveling to Tulane to face off against the Green Wave. Those 2 games are going to be very difficult, but if the Blue Devils can survive these non-conference games, it should give their resume a big boost. After the 3 non-conference games to start this season, Duke's conference schedule isn't anything they can't handle. For starters, it's the ACC, and with Duke avoiding Miami and SMU, Duke's toughest conference game by far is going to be their matchup in the middle of the season on the road against the Clemson Tigers. But every other game on this Duke schedule, they should be able to compete in. And if they get the quarterback play that we're all hoping for from Darian Mensah, watch out, this 2025 Duke football team could be very dangerous, possibly making the 12-team playoff without even winning the ACC, maybe going 10-2 or something like that. Don't sleep on the Duke Blue Devils for the 2025 college football season. The last dark horse playoff contender I want to mention in this video is the Iowa State Cyclones. Real quick, shout out to them for winning the most games in program history last season with 11 wins, as well as making it to their first ever Big 12 title game. Last season was amazing, but they fell just short, and in 2025 I think they might be able to actually win the Big 12 title and make the college football playoffs. So let me tell you why. Iowa State is returning 14 starters, with the most important of them being their quarterback Rocco Beck, who is coming into his 3rd season as a starter. Last year he passed for 3,505 yards with 25 touchdowns to only 9 interceptions. I like the young man, and he is to me one of the top returning quarterbacks in the Big 12. He's not going to make many mistakes, and he knows how to manage a football game. Iowa State returns a veteran offensive line that has had a lot of starts in college football, with a tandem of running backs who bounce very well off of each other. The offense for this season looks good with a lot of familiar faces. Someone who I can see possibly taking a huge step up on offense is their 6'6" mammoth of a tight end, Gabe Burkle. Him and Rocco should be connecting a lot on third down this season, and they're going to need to, with the Cyclones losing some of their most productive wide receivers from last season. There is good news though, they did add some proven college wideouts in the transfer portal to give their quarterback some options, most notably Chase Sowell and Xavier Townsend. On the defensive side of the ball, there is a couple of question marks along the D-line, but I think they'll figure that all out during the season. My favorite thing about this squad is how tight-knit they are. A lot of their top talent got offers from other schools to play for them, because Iowa State is still a little bit behind the rest of the college football world when it comes to NIL money. But most of them stayed, taking less money to play for the Cyclones, which shows me they really believe in this team and what they can do this year. And with Matt Campbell at head coach, the sky is the limit for this 2025 Iowa State squad. But how does their schedule fare? The Cyclones' schedule for the 2025 season is pretty tough, but it isn't anything they can't handle. That Week 0 game to start off the season in Ireland against the Kansas State Wildcats is going to be a pretty big game that Iowa State can't afford to lose. Their non-conference is pretty tight, with their only real test being their rivalry game against Iowa. You know that game is always tough, but pretty much the rest of their schedule isn't anything too crazy. It's the Big 12. If I'm being real, this conference has like 7 or 8 teams that can win the Big 12 title and make the college football playoffs. So the margin for error in a lot of these games are going to be razor thin. And when margins are razor thin, you always have to go with the team who has the better QB and better coaching. And there's not too many coach/quarterback duos better than Matt Campbell and Rocco Beck in the Big 12. Iowa State can make the playoffs with 3 losses as long as they win the Big 12 title, which I think is more than possible with a squad that has as much chemistry as this 2025 Iowa State Cyclones team.